Thank you, Vishal. It's a pleasure to be here and great to be with all of you this morning. Thanks for taking time again. And thanks for that warm welcome and introduction, Vishal. It's exciting. We love working with you guys. So to kick things off this morning, as Vishal mentioned, we're going to talk today about document management and process automation, specifically as they relate to Dynamics GP and Business Central / Nav as they exist today with QuickTag. Now, first I'm going to talk a little bit about the how and the why for each of those, and then we're going to spend the majority of our time together today walking through demonstrations of those products, what QuickTag Document Management does, what QuickTag Process Automation does for AP, and then our latest solution I'm going to share with you is what QuickTag does for expense management. And we'll focus the majority of this demonstration and training on how it works with GP, because I have to pick a system for all of these documents and invoices and receipts and such to go through. So I'm going to show you mostly in GP, but then I will also highlight the core document management capabilities within NAV as well. So nothing to leave ahead of time, because you're going to want to see that if you're using NAV. But the core functionality works very much the same way. Spoiler alert, you'll see how the tag, view, and search functions work within both. But before I get into that, I want to just introduce myself. As Vishal mentioned, I head up the marketing and channel team here at QuickTag, and I am not today accompanied on the phone, but accompanied on a daily basis from a team standpoint with Michael Sortino. He is your partner and account manager as well. So together we tag team to support Optimus, the sales team and support team there, and then also all of you that are clients of Optimus. And so we value our relationship very much, and you can reach either one of us to help support your needs when it comes to document management and process automation. Now, as I briefly mentioned here a moment ago, our agenda today first is going to be a little bit about why you would do anything. What is this document management stuff all about, right? Why are we faced with these challenges, and what is it costing our business today? And then we're going to spend, as I mentioned, the majority of our time together walking through product demonstration. Because document management and AP automation and expense management are three key core components to your organization's digital transformation, and they each take quite a bit of time to walk through. And I'm not going to show you every feature on the planet, but I will do my best to cover the main workflows and the how it works. And frankly, what I want you to take away from that, if there's anything, is this: it's easy. It's easy for you to get documents into the system, regardless of which application you're using. It's easy for your users to adopt. Most of the interaction can be done on their phone. And then it's easy for people who need to log in and edit and approve things and then find them when they're done. That's what I want you to know, is that QuickTag is easy for your team to use. Okay, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions and discussion. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I mentioned I talk a little bit about the challenges and the costs, and if you've joined us before, maybe you could share some of these on your own organization. What's happening, right? Why would you change anything? The number one reason, and you can see several examples here, but the number one reason organizations start on a digital transformation journey is that they are burdened with paper. There's filing cabinets around the office. There are boxes in the people who manage the accounting and the HR staff and the legal staff, and all of those documents that live in your organization, time off requests, a vacation change, a benefit change, insurance, taxes, all of these things, right? As employees, we have them. Certainly, we in accounting and HR have them from our vendors, invoices, and then as expense submitters, we have them. All of this paper adds up. And at the end of the day, it just makes us take way more time to get things done than if we were doing something with that paper digitally. So it takes us too much time, it takes up too much space, slows things down. And at the end of the day, the accounting team, the ones left holding the bag, as it were, doesn't have visibility into those documents. They don't know where they are, could be sitting on somebody's desk. Maybe that person isn't even there. And they're the ones responsible for ultimately paying the bill or finding the status of that bill or expense report or document of some sort in the organization. And then compliance. Auditors come around, they want to see all of the invoices that were paid by a certain check number or for a certain date range or for a period of a specific dollar amount or more. All of those things need to be at your fingertips because that stuff adds up too from a cost standpoint. So we want to make it easy to get into the system, easy to find in the system, and then easy to share when you need it. So those are some of the reasons why you would begin your digital transformation path. And here are some numbers to back that up from industry research. Industry research suggests that you can go from 45 days on average to 5 days for your invoice processing time. From the minute an invoice arrives in your organization today, the average time it takes is 45 days for it to get from receipt to approval. You add some level of automation, maybe you start using some email in your workflow kind of thing, you can take that down to about 23 days. You add a fully automated system like what I'm going to show you today, and you'll start getting invoices in and out of your system in about 5 days. In fact, some people have told us that they've gotten it down to 2 or 3. So it really can accelerate the processes in your organization to get paper through your business because now it's digital. And that has a cost to it, right? Today, those invoices are about $15 each. Now, most organizations today have invoices coming into their business, some in paper, some in email. And so that $15 per invoice represents a combination of paper and electronic. If it's all 100% paper, the cost of that is about $23 per invoice to process manually. You can do the math. That adds up very quickly. And some other data points here that you just want to take into account as you're thinking about this digital transformation, this going paperless situation. Because these opportunities right now are costing your business in a way that you're probably not tracking. So here's some information to help you do that. Now, that's kind of the background information, the why, if you will. We're going to log in now to my demo environment, and we're going to take a look at the products that are going to help us, the solutions that are going to help us get through these challenges and address them from a digital perspective. So once you kind of have a grasp on the situation, the opportunity then is to automate. Automate as early in the process as possible and automate at as many touch points as possible. What do I mean by that? I mean that, picture this, right? If your vendors could email your invoices in, let's start with invoices. If email your invoices in, they come into, let's say, a central queue, we'll call it a tag queue by way of example, a quick tag queue as it were. I'll open the product that I'm talking about here to show you that. They could email their invoices in. If you were paying attention, you saw that little tag number just go from 30-something to 46. And the reason that happened is that I just emailed in some more invoices to my queue. I'm pretending to be a vendor, right? I've got to send quick tag some invoices, so I email them straight in. My mailroom did not have to open an envelope. My front desk person didn't have to walk over and bring it to me, and I didn't have to search for a personal email even that I needed to forward. I said, hey, companies that we work with, vendors, could you just, when you have your invoices for us, could you just email them straight into this email address? Let's call it invoices@quicktag.com. Something like that will help you figure out what that that email should be for you. They come straight into this queue. What happens here is that now you see here these ones on the top with today's date right here, 6/18. I emailed those just before we got together this morning. And they're now sitting in my work queue. How much time did that save you even by itself, right? You don't have to go to the mailroom and look for them. The mailroom or the front desk clerk is not going to have to bring them to you. They're not going to get lost. They're sitting waiting for you in this queue. So check this out. Now we're going to do something with these invoices, right? So we went digital. Step one, we said invoice, get into the system. So we say this is a new invoice. We right-click to select a workflow. Those basics we'll cover in training, don't worry. We'll teach you everything you need to know. Then here's time saver number 2, right here at the top of the page. If I have more than one GP company, as many organizations do, I can connect to all of them using QuickTag. So I don't need to log in and log out of GP, every time I want to change a company, I'm in QuickTag. I'm connected to all of my GP companies. I can clearly see this invoice was sent to Fabricam. I'm going to go ahead and select Fabricam, and now QuickTag is reaching out to GP and saying, hey, give me all of the vendor information about Fabricam. So I come to my vendor ID and I start typing. This is International Telephone, happens to be 003. The reason that I know that is that I demo with this file all the time. But let's just say I'm not sure which location. Maybe there's more than one international telephone vendor that we work with, right? So I'm going to do a vendor lookup right here into my GP database and go, okay, where's international telephone that's on East Brown? Oh, there it is. It's 0003. Okay, so I can switch it. It's going to say, do you want to clear all of the vendor data and continue? Yes. So I did. And now the header information is complete with everything it pulled in from GP. The default data that you have on your GP vendor card is going to populate for us automatically. Now, of course, we've got to get a document number in here. We're going to come over to our document, just do a quick copy and paste, put that into the document number, and then we've got to get our purchases amount. So we'll just come down here. Looks like that's $14.85. I could copy and paste, but I'm quicker with 10 keys, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. And then I'm going to look at my GL distributions. Again, real-time connected to GP. What's the value of that? Remember all that time that we talked about? All the running around looking for information? Well, since the invoice came in, I didn't need to look for it. And now I don't need to go back to GP to find it. It's pulled in right here for me. And if I need to change something or add a row or whatever, I can have that look up as well. I have a direct connection to GP. So it's best of both worlds, right? Your accounting team that today is doing all of this entry in GP then has to still wait for the paper. Now the invoice is going to come in digitally. I'm going to do my initial indexing with a couple of fields of data entry, but most of it is pulling straight through from GP, so there really isn't much to enter. Then we're going to pick an approver. We're going to send this invoice to Mary CFO for review and approval, and it's on our way. So in just a couple of minutes, we've received the invoice from the vendor. We've entered through selection of the company and the vendor ID straight from GP. We've filled in all of this data and really only had to enter the document number and the amount. We validated the GLs, of course. We could have changed them, but we'll accept them as defaults for demo purposes. That may be your situation as well. But think about the value of that, right? What if we had 10 GLs that normally get distributed? This is a phone bill, right? Or phone services. Maybe that's normally distributed across 3, 4, 5, 10 different departments because the phone bill and phone expenses have to be shared. I could save that, have it in there once, and then click this little button down here and say Save as Template and put it a template name and call it International Telephone, if I could spell, and all locations. And let's say I had a bunch of GL distributions in there. I enter that as a template. I'm going to submit it. Now, when I submit this, I'm going to get an error. The reason for that error is that this document number already exists in GP. So we're doing a duplicate check. Think of how much time and pain that saves you. We're doing a dupe check before we even send the invoice for review and approval or edits and approval, whichever your workflow requires. So we're going to put in today's date to make it unique. And then we're going to resubmit that invoice. So what did we do? We received the invoice digitally into our organization. We used our real-time connection to GP to populate the header information, validated the GL codes, and selected an approver and sent it on. Okay, now what happened to that invoice? Well, we sent it to Mary CFO for approval. So let's log in as Mary CFO and we'll see what that experience looks like. And now in my case, Mary CFO is going to be a review and approver only. She's going to come into QuickTag and into Quick Payables and look at her tasks. Her tasks are going to have lots of different document types. In our case, we're just going to look at those for approver selection. Now, you can see that she's got this full list of documents to review and approve. If we sort by document date, it's going to come here right at the top. I click on that row, there's the document. We just indexed in accounting, right? We had our accounting hat on at that point. Now we have our CFO hat on. And here's all the information I can see about this. Look, I can see the GL codes. Just click on that little book right there. I can see the workflow history. I can see who did what. What does that do for us? Well, in addition to the CFO having that visibility, remember that audit and compliance time we talked about? Auditors come in at the end of the year, you sit down next to them, and they say, I want to see in all invoices to international telephone. You say, okay, great. You do a search in QuickTag, it pulls all of these up, and they say, I want to see who approved these, and I want to see how they were coded. Great, here you go. And they do that for a handful, maybe 10 or 15, and you give them this kind of data. You show them the image, you show them who edited it, who approved it, you show them how it was coded, and they're going to be in and out of your hair in less than a week or two. It's not going to take them very long to get through an audit process once you have all of this information digital. It can really speed up your business. And then your accounting and finance team gets back to work. They're not any longer burdened by looking for data in boxes and file cabinets and such. So as Mary CFO, I can approve, reject, or delegate here. But before we do that, I want to show you one other thing. Let's hop over to our email. You might have noticed we received an email notification there in our lower right-hand corner a second ago. What happened with that? Well, let's pretend for a moment that I'm out of the office. I'm on my phone, I'm at an airport, I'm at a Starbucks, whatever. I have email on my phone, as most approvers would in your organization, or at least that's the case. In fact, often when Hector and Vishal's team and I are doing a demo like this for one of you all kind of more personally on a one-to-one demo, let's say, we often send this email to you so that you can see what it's like. Because check this out, the email itself has the invoice attached. How cool is that, right? You don't have to write back to accounting and say, okay, but can you send me the file because, you know, it wasn't there, and when they asked for approval, I didn't have all the information I needed. The invoice is attached to the email. So let's pretend we're on our mobile phone, right? I open this email. I see all of the invoice detail, who it was to, how much it's for. Scroll down, I can see the GL codes even right here. And if I'm on my phone, I have these two little buttons, approve or reject. But before we do that, we'll open the document. We'll open it in Adobe Reader, because of course PDF is natural for that. And now I can review the invoice. Now on my phone, it's going to be a little small, right? But you get the idea. You can still see it. You can zoom in and use all those cool fancy tools that your phone provides. But if you're on your desktop, of course, you can see this nice and clearly what that invoice contains. And if I'm on my phone, I can just approve or reject, hit a tap. It creates the reply email. All I have to do is hit send. Now, if I reject it, I'm not going to save it this way because we're going to do it online, but if I reject it, I have to put some comments in. It says some reasons. Maybe it was coded incorrectly. Maybe I need it to be approved by somebody else because they sent it to the wrong approver and it's not my budget, it's somebody else's budget. Several reasons that you could have for rejection, but of course you have to tell accounting why you're rejecting it. So in that situation, you would just put a couple comments and then hit send. But let's come back to our online experience. So think of your mobile approvers that need to review and approve things while on the road. That comes in super handy by getting that email. We're going to go ahead and approve here because there's one other feature I'd like to show you, and that's delegate. Now, let's say I'm going to be giving a budget project to another member of my team. And I say, you know what, Vishal, I'm going to need you to approve all of these for this project. I'm going to delegate them to you. So then I'm going to find him in my list and I'm going to send that on. So you can delegate invoices to somebody else. That takes the invoice out of your workflow, out of your task queue, and sends it to Vishal or whoever else we delegate that to, okay? But you still gain all the visibility, the GL codes, the workflow history, etc. And if you approve or reject here, of course you put comments for reject required. Approval comments are not required, but we'll put some in just for fun, and we'll send it on its merry way. So what have we done? We received an invoice from our vendor digitally, came straight into our tag work queue inside the GP Pro client with QuickTag. We did that initial validation lookup of the vendor information. We validated the GL codes that also came through from the vendor card, and we clicked submit. That submit took that invoice, routed it here to our CFO role for review and approval, where we could view the invoice right here in line on the screen or on our phone, and approve or reject it. Because we approved it, our work is done. that invoice is now going to go straight into GP. So let's take a look at that. I switch over to GP and I come to my transaction entry. I'm now going to attach to the additional menu. That's where QuickTag lives. QuickTag lives here in the tag, view, and search documents. That's our core document management functionality. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But then our work queue, if your workflow, if you're using payable solution or expense management solution with us, your process is going to end in the work queue. So we're going to have this experience where we log in and we have one more chance because now we're in AP, right? We put our AP hat back on. It's time to pay the bills. So what do? Once a week, once every other week, however often we need to put the payments into a batch. We come into the work queue so that we can select whichever invoices we want to be part of this payables batch to go into have those transactions created. So here's the one that we just did. And I'm going to right click. I can view the document again. This is again my last check as AP before I create this payable transaction entry inside of GP to do my review. So I look at the invoice. I want to see the document. Is that one? Is that the one? But check this out. I hover and I can see the GL codes. Or I right click again and I see all the details. Everything about this transaction, the GL, who approved it, that the two codes were selected, all of that information, and we already looked at the document. So we know this is, in fact, the invoice that we want to put in. Now, let's just say that I wanted to put in multiple invoices to this batch. Of course, I could multi-select and grab all of those, which is a common scenario, right? You're not just going to put one or two invoices unless it's a rush situation. You're probably going to look at this and go, yep, all of these invoices have been approved. I'm going to create a batch with all of them, put maybe today's date or whatever your naming convention is. But because we share this demo environment, I'm just going to use the one that we've been working with and create that into a batch. So let's see if I have an open batch here right at the top. We'll use that guy and say okay. And what we're going to do then is that this invoice is now going to become a payable transaction entry inside of GP when we put it into that batch. Now, a moment about batches. I selected an open batch and I grabbed one that I've already created right on the top of my list. If you leave it blank, GP will create a new batch for you if that's the way that you process payable batches, or you could enter a new name if you wanted to control the name of the new batch. Okay, so that's the way that QuickTag connects to your batch creation. But as you can see, we put that invoice right into the batch that was at the top of the list. It disappeared out of our work queue here, and now we're going to close this and go find that voucher right here inside of GP. Okay, so we look up that voucher number, there it is, and check this out. Our payable transaction entry is now fully created. We've got the GL distributions right there. Came through from QuickTag. Now when I go additional, I can view the document, and that document, that invoice, is now forever and always associated with this transaction, but this document lives in QuickTag. So it's a very seamless experience for the GP user because they didn't have to do any data entry, they didn't have to do double data entry, they didn't have to enter anything into GP, and they have access to the document as part of the transaction, and it's gone through workflow and approval. Now, if Mary CFO had to do some edits or needed to send that invoice to somebody else who was going to do some edits, maybe redistribute the GLs or whatever, of course that's possible. I'm showing you the simple straight-through process of AP indexes, CFO approves, and then AP creates the batch inside of GP. But that workflow can take many twists and turns and variations depending on the criteria and the business process that exists in your organization. So just understand that there's options there. If you need editors in your organization to do something with those invoices, we can build that into the process. We'll build that into the workflow. But this is our end-to-end solution. We went from invoice from our vendor, AP, CFO approved, and now it's created in GP. Now, what else can I do when I get here? Remember, I said we'll come back to this tag view search option list here. Let's say that after I get this invoice and paid it, I get a stack of papers from the warehouse, right? They've got all these packing slips. They have all this information that has now arrived in our organization as paper as we would expect, right? When somebody delivers a product or package, there's going to be a packing slip or a bill of lading or some sort of document that includes all of that information that was in that shipment, right? So, but I want to associate that document with this transaction too. Well, this is really cool. So even if it's already in paper, we can still make it digital. How do we do that? Here's how. So we tag the document. Let's assume we're looking at a piece of paper and it's a packing slip. And I have a roll of quick tags of the labels called quick tags on my desk, and they have these numbers, okay? They are a sequential roll. 107, 374, 555 is the next label on my roll of quick tags. I take that tag off, I put it on that packing slip, I set it aside, and I say, okay. And then let's say somebody else a couple days later says, oh, you know what, I have this email. Somebody approved it, but they forwarded it to me with some comments, and so I wanted to make sure you had it because it was relevant to that same transaction. And I go, you know, okay, thanks, just forward it on to me, I'll take it from there. So they send you this email, and you say tag documents again, and watch this, it's the coolest thing. I'm going to grab this email from my inbox, I'm going to drag it right over to that little tag window, and quick tag says comments is empty, do you wish to proceed? Yes, that's okay. And then it says quick tag is going to attach this document. In this case, this document is an email with an attachment, going to bring it all right over. Do you want to attach this? And I say yes. And so it's going to now associate that email with this transaction. And then let's just say that somebody else says, oh, you know what, I sent you a file, it's out on the shared drive. It was the original purchase order or whatever. That was related to that transaction. So I'm going to browse out and I'm going to go upload that document. We'll say it was the price quote. Say, okay, got it. Do you want to associate this document with this transaction? Yes, I do. So what am I doing? I am now instantly associating all of the documents that are related to this transaction using quick tag. I didn't have to get up and go to a file cabinet. You can all attest to that. I was standing right here talking to y'all. So I didn't have to go search for it. I didn't have to go look at a file folder or mailroom or warehouse or whatever. I found all of those documents because they were either sent to me or emailed, or I already had them in an email, or somebody brought me a piece of paper that I just put the label on, right? So now let's take a look at this view documents. Check this out. I now have 4 documents in my view. So the one that we created together through process of the invoice, that's right there. Here's the packing slip. I'm going to walk over to the scanner, let's say when I get a break or right before lunch, and maybe I had to scan 10 or 20 or whatever that I put stickers on for documents that I'm going to associate with transactions. I walk over to the top feeder of the scanner. I say scan to quick tag. I push a button. We're going to help you configure your scanners. Scan to quick tag. It's going to take all of those documents, and then it's going to go look for those barcode reservation numbers and associate those documents with the transactions that we created those for. So it's going to associate the paper whenever it gets scanned using that quick tag label, okay? And then here's the email, and then here's the price quote. So that's associated with the purchase order. So I now have all of those documents associated with this one transaction. Now, because we started with workflow, this payable transaction entry was created through the course of the workflow that began in QuickTag, went to QuickTag for review and approval, and then ended in GP. But these things that I'm showing you right now, this adding, uploading documents, tagging, drag and drop an email, scan in a document, all of that is core document management system. So if you remember, Vishal mentioned that we have a promotion with QuickTag going on right now. So we have a discounted bundle basically for document management system QuickTag with GP, NAV, AX, or SL, depending on whatever you're using, for a very discounted price to just get started with document management. And that document management functionality lets you tag and view and search all of these core functions of document management right inside those ERPs. So this tag and view, it looks a little bit different in NAV, it looks a little bit different in SL and AX, but the functionality is the same. You tag the documents right here, you view them, but they live in QuickTag. Okay, so all of that is core document management. Just so happens that this transaction was created because it went through a workflow. All right, so now we have all those documents. I'm going to show you in a second where they actually live in QuickTag and how you could find them and how you could share them with somebody who maybe isn't a GP user, because that's often helpful as well. So we're going to save that. No, we don't want analysis codes. Oh, there must be some on the vendor card. Anyway, so we're going to save that transaction. We're going to minimize that, and we're going to hop back over to QuickTag and say, hey, where are those documents? Where do they live? Well, they're no longer in my tasks because my work as CFO is done, but Mary, the accounting person, can probably find them in the payables transaction entry drawer. Why? Because our core document management function also directly connects to about 79 different screens in GP, 80 different screens in NAV, and then about 33 in SL and 72 in AX. So regardless of what ERP system, what Dynamics ERP system you're using, you are going to have access to this document management functionality for all of these drawers. Now, I've got a few favorited here. I could expand the list and you can see all of the ones that they set up in my demo environment. But what's neat about that is here, look, these are the documents that we just created together. There's the quote that we uploaded. There's the email that, of course, if I want to see it, I just click on the icon and it's going to open it here. And I can see that message. And look at this. I'm getting the message and the attachment. I can go back to Outlook and delete that message and it's gone. Doesn't matter because it now lives in QuickTag. And then here's the invoice. Here's the one that's waiting to be scanned. Okay, so when I walk over to the scanner, that one will show up here. And then here's the invoice that we routed for approval. So what's cool about this is now remember that audit trail and history that we talked about before? Well, I can now see it all here at a glance as well, along with all of the supporting documentation. So you're never going to need to look very far when you need to find things now that they're digital in your system. But let's say, you can probably relate to this, let's say somebody in another department or out in the field, right? They're out at a customer site or at a vendor or partner site. They say, hey, can you email me that invoice, you know, the phone supply place? I don't remember who it was or where it was for, but I don't have it with me and I need to order some more of the products that we ordered from them. So you go, sure. So you log into QuickTag and you say, all right, I'm going to send you this file. I'm going to send this file straight from QuickTag. Let's say that I'm going to email it to myself, document for your review, per your request. I put a message in there and away it goes. Now, pause for a second. Think about all of the other areas of your business where this would also be helpful. We find that it's very helpful for HR teams. We find it's very helpful for legal teams, contracts, right? And it's not that we're making this up, of course. This is what our customers tell us. Because I could email this document now, or I could email this document at a future date. Look at this. Send options now. When the document is received, that would apply when it gets scanned in, let's say, so that one that's waiting for a scan, or at a future date. So I could say in 6 months, maybe I want to review this document and decide if we're still going to purchase from that vendor. Maybe I've got a contract renewal. Maybe I need to renegotiate some terms or something like that. I can send that message at a future date with the document attached to either myself or somebody else on the team. So I have this communication aspect around my documents as well. So you can see very quickly how that core document management functionality can apply beyond your invoices. Because let's face it, whether we created that invoice in GP or NAV or AX or whatever, when we create that, we have to get the invoice into the system. We have to create that transaction. Whether we used a workflow solution to create it or we manually data entered it, the data has to get into the ERP system. But that doesn't mean that we had to have this document association or this document visibility, but that's the value of QuickTag. QuickTag brings those pieces together, the transaction data and the document, and it gives you all of this additional functionality to find, search, share documents with others in or out of your organization right here from QuickTag. Or think about all the times that other departments need access to files for maybe training purposes or benefit updates or whatever. You can with QuickTag. Look at this on the left-hand side here. I've got sites. QuickTag is organized by sites and drawers. we're in the Fabricam site, of course, and all of the accounting drawers that relate to the invoice process we just looked at, but I could create one for human resources, I could create one for legal, you can see this list travel, and then I've got another maybe GP company here. I can create sites and drawers for any department in my organization and have those documents as part of the core document management functionality live in QuickTag. So here's some examples. I've got one in legal. Here's if I go to human resources, I'm going to have applicants and compliance tracking and other things like that. So understand that when you have QuickTag in place, it doesn't just apply to accounting and finance. It can apply to any document across your organization. And all of this that I'm showing you, this sites and drawers and adding documents in and emailing them out and finding them and being able to research them, all of that is part of the QuickTag core document management functionality that's part of the bundle solution that we have a promo on right now. So if you're thinking about going digital, just maybe getting rid of the paper as step one, this is a really good place to start, and it's very, very affordable right now. So I would encourage you to consider that. Reach out to Vishal and let him know if you're interested. Okay, so that's kind of AP automation and document management. And we started with the AP automation, and then we took a look right now at document management. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit to expense management. So what's the scenario here? Well, let's say that you have employees in your company that have a corporate credit card. They go out on a business trip, they spend some money on behalf of the company, and they come back with a pile of receipts. Nobody likes that, right? Neither do we. But what happens now when you add quick expense to this solution, you take a picture of the receipt with either your phone or now with our mobile app, and you send those receipts straight in to QuickTag, straight into Quick Expense. And we're going to show you how that works. And then once you get those receipts into Quick Expense, we're going to do a little bit of data entry and send it on its way to build an expense report. Once that expense report is created, it routes for approval just like the invoice workflow we just looked at. And then if you're using GP, the transaction gets created inside a GP just like the invoices that we just looked at together. If you're using another system, you'll work with the Optimus team to do an export-import of some sort, but the file will still be available for them, and then everything will still live in Quick Expense, just like I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so let's look first at corporate credit cards. Now, we can support corporate credit cards or reimbursable. In other words, I spend my own money, I give the receipts and expense report to accounting, and they pay me back. So we consider those reimbursable expenses. But we also have corporate credit card. You can see on my demo environment here, we use Amex. So all of us have an American Express card in our name, but it's really a company card. So let's look at mine. We'll start there. This is so cool. And if you're in accounting, you're going to wonder how you ever survived without this. We seriously have customers tell us that. So here's what happens. At the end of the month, or whenever we're about to pay the corporate credit card bill, our accounting person goes out to, in our case, American Express. Maybe you use a bank site directly or whatever. You download the statement, you upload it straight in here to Quick Expense. You put it right here in this new statement window. You drag and drop the file. QuickTag figures out how it needs to be parsed and separated, and then does the rest. Here's what I mean by the rest. Check this out. We now have receipts that have been submitted, that have been coded, that are waiting for approval inside of Quick Expense. So we're going to go ahead and approve that as Mary CFO, and then we're going to start over. I'll show you that experience. So we have an expense report here that's pending approval. There they are. Here's 3 receipts, and I have an expense report that summarizes all of them right here, and I'm going to go ahead and approve. So now this expense report just got sent to GP to be created as a transaction. So when I come back now as Mary and refresh, we're going to see that we're starting over. So those have now been approved and they're waiting in GP. So let's just take that last step so you can see what that's like as well. We come back to additional view work queue. This is the end of the process. We'll take a look here in a second at the beginning, and we'll just refresh here really fast and do a document number, date. Let's see, that was Quick Expense. So it would have been May, and there we go. So it's coming in now. That's the email that we just got for it. So here it is, Amex 616. So we're going to go ahead and create it into a batch. We'll put it in that same batch as we had before, and now it's going to disappear out of our work queue, and the system begins again. So that transaction is now going to be inside of GP. But before that, when we first begin this cycle with new receipts, when I refresh this, I'm now going to have a new option. So let's come back to our quick expense experience. We've got Mary, we've got 3 users in this scenario. We have Mary, the AP person. We have Mary, the department manager. She's the one who carries the corporate credit card. And then we have Mary, CFO. So the same role as before that does the review and approval. Now, Mary, in the accounting person, you can see this is her dashboard. So what is this experience? On the left-hand side, we have receipts. On the right-hand side, we have reports. And then down here is tasks, things pending her review. So our receipts, we've got several that are incomplete, several that are pending submission, meaning they've been put into a report that just hasn't been submitted. You can see them all represented right here, reimbursable, 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 pending approval, that kind of thing. And then those reports that have been created, there's 2 that are pending submission right here, and there's 2 that are pending approval right here. So you instantly, remember that visibility stuff we talked about where nobody can tell where anything is in a process? Those same challenges happen with expense reports, maybe even worse, because what happens in an expense report situation, right? We come back from that trip, we've got all these receipts, and hope we didn't lose any along the way, hope we didn't forget anything at the restaurant or whatever, hope that we remembered to tell the hotel to email it to us so we didn't have to chase the paper. And now we have all of these receipts when we get back to the office. Well, with quick expense, again, we either email them straight in which case they'd be in this incomplete status, or we took a picture through the mobile app or on our phone and sent them in. Now they're just waiting for some information. Mary, department manager, however, let's log in as her for a moment, is the one who has the corporate card. So we'll log in as Mary, department manager, and see what her experience is like, because she's the one who has to do some, not a lot, but some data entry about those receipts. So we've got to get them over to her here really quick. So let's take a look at, we sent him in as Mary. This is actually pretty cool too, because Mary, the accounting person, maybe we sent them into Mary because she works on behalf of some other members of the team. So we can just quickly reassign these receipts to the person who needs to do the coding on them, who they belong to. So I can come in here and change owner. I can send them to whoever they belong to. I could also switch user. I could work on behalf of someone. Look, I have access to work on behalf of all these other people. Maybe I'm the admin for a specific team. So there's a lot of flexibility and control that you get with having the power of administration and working on behalf of and being able to move receipts from one queue to the next. So we had 16 incomplete receipts. Now we have 13 because we just assigned Mary department manager hers from the expense report. Now that's just the way our demo environment is set up. In most situations, whoever the user is when they send them in are going to have them right here in their queue. So I'm just giving you some extra options of the flexibility of the system, okay? So Mary department manager has an American Express corporate card. She goes out, she meets with clients, she meets with partners, she travels to events, all that kind of stuff. She comes back at the end of the month, she gets a notification that says, hey, you've got these 3 receipts. What does that look like? Well, Mary, accounting person, comes over to the reconcile option, and now when we go back into Mary and look at her pending statements, they're red. So Mary, department manager, is now missing these 3 receipts. So we saw the end of the process once they were approved, but now this is a new month. They're red, they're missing. And Mary, accounting person, is like, hey, I've got to pay the bill. What's going on? Where are you? So I'm going to send you these missing receipts. Now that's going to happen automatically the minute the statement gets loaded, but the accounting person who has this visibility is going to be able to send it at any time as a reminder as well. One more note about that is that we're looking at this from the Mary point of view, right? The Mary world that just has a few transactions. But if I'm the accounting person for the whole company and 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 people, whatever, carry corporate cards, all of them would be listed here with all of their transactions. So as the accounting person, I could instantly see who has transactions missing from their report that need to be entered into the system. Okay, so we know that it's Mary Department Manager in this case. That's the user. And here's these receipts. So all I have to do is add a little bit of receipt data about these receipts because I select that the payment type is a corporate card, and I can see this is my car ride for $10. It pulled that list of transactions in. I didn't even have to think about it. So you might be thinking, well, what do I got to tell it then? It looks like it's pretty much done. It almost is. The only thing we have to tell it is what department we're in, what department we work in. We don't have to know GL codes. We don't even need to know any specific information really about this transaction. We just need to know who we are, what department it was for, and the type of the expense. It was a travel expense, okay? And we're going to submit that. And then we're going to go ahead and submit that receipt. We come back to the next receipt. We add a little bit more receipt data about it. And again, we first select payment type American Express. Look at that. Now we only have two. We can see this is a $55 restaurant expense. And I'm still in sales. This expense type was meals. And I'm going to submit that. So you can see how quick and easy this is, right? Because the receipt is already sitting there waiting for me. But before we submit this last receipt, let's go back to our accounting view. How cool is this? When I refresh, now my role as Mary Accounting Person, I can see, oh look, Mary Department Manager just matched two of her receipts. She just gave me the data about two of those receipts because they came in from the corporate card statement. We've got one more to do. Let's just go do that really quick. We come here, we add the receipt data about the last receipt that's in our queue. We say that it's American Express. We pick the last transaction from our list. So your users don't have to do very much work. Let's say this time they traveled on behalf of services. They pick that, they pick travel, and they submit that line item and then that receipt. Now I could split that receipt among multiple departments, between multiple departments. Let's say I was traveling half on behalf of services, half on behalf of sales. I could split that receipt out and create multiple line items as well. Guess what? Those line items, when they get sent to GP, become GL codes. Okay, so there again, there's no double data entry, and there's no data entry for the accounting person at all. And all the user has to do, all the corporate card expense submitter has to do, is tell us a little bit of data about the receipts. Okay, so we now review this summary and take a look at our receipts, make sure we didn't miss anything, make sure we coded them correctly. Yep, all looks good, and send for approval. Had we not done the data entry for all three of those transactions, Quick Expense would not even make that send for approval option available for us. But we had, and we're good now, so it's all good to go. So we now have two that are pending review. So Mary Department Manager didn't even have to create a report. Did you notice that? It was already ready there waiting. All she had to do was review it, make sure everything was correct, and submit it for approval. So let's come back to Mary Accounting View for a second. Mary Accounting says, oh look, all three of the transactions have been completed. They're now pending approval. They're waiting for whoever Mary Department Manager's approver is. That happens to be Mary CFO. Well, guess what? Mary CFO is also going to get an email. Oh, look, she had missing receipts, but here's our approval email. Comes in, says the expense owner is Mary Department Manager. It was for $365. It was for June Amex Mary. It gave it a name, it gave it a date, it tells me when it was submitted. The system did all of that. Mary did not have to create an expense report. How cool is that? And look at this. It pulled in all of the data from that transaction statement because we didn't have to enter the amount or airline flight seats or anything like that. All of that information was there. So as the approver, I can review this. And again, if I'm on my phone, I can just tap, tap. If I'm on my desktop, I click. And then I can also review the expense report. I can open it up and see everything. I can drill down. I can even look at the image. How cool is that? And if it's not big enough, I can expand it. So I have a lot of options for reviewing this nice, clean, easy expense report experience. And then I can approve it if I agree that it is acceptable, or I can reject it and send it back with comments. But let's go back to our Mary CFO view here. We'll go ahead and review it online. Take a look at this. We can look at it in line. We can look at the reports. You get the idea. That part is pretty much the same. We'll go ahead and approve that report. Say, please rush. And now the same role of the approver, of the CFO in this case, has approved that expense report, and it's now in GP waiting to be created as an invoice as a payable transaction entry. So the process from a workflow standpoint, while very similar, also creates a much easier end user experience for getting their receipts into the system. Now, if I was traveling and spent my own money and I was going to wait for a reimbursable, oh look, I got notification that it's been approved. How cool is that? And look, Mary, department manager can see it too. Saw that that's approved. That's great. Now, but if I was spending my own money, let's come back over here to Mary quick expense dashboard. I've got all these incomplete receipts as well. Let's say that maybe I had a lunch receipt or an airline receipt or whatever. I could come over here and code these receipts to get reimbursed. So let's add some receipt data there. Now let's assume I sent this in from the mobile app, in which case the receipt date would already be there, the comments would already be there, and because I would have entered that in the mobile app. Again, I need to tell it the department and the expense type, meals, let's just say in this case, it's reimbursable, that's fine. And the only other thing I have to do here is enter the dollar amount and any other comments. Why? Because in this case, it didn't get that data from a corporate statement that we downloaded. So then the rest of the process is very similar, and I've got all these reports. I can decide which report that goes into, or I can create based on a date range. But if for reimbursable, if I create the report, all I need to do is validate the dates and validate the name. I could change the name if I want to and click submit. So I'm not going to do that yet because I don't have all my receipts in there yet. But you get the idea. You can then see these are pending approval, these are pending submission. Like we could take a look at this one and say, okay, I'm ready to send this for approval now, and go ahead and submit it. So I'm now the manager of my own expenses. They're all living in the same world. I can decide when it's time to submit for reimbursable. The system tells me when it's ready to process corporate card, and then that report gets created for me automatically as soon as I enter that data about those receipts. So the whole process is very simple, and the mobile app makes the front end for the users very, very cool as well. It's going to be available June 28th, so 10 days from now. It's already in our demo environment. It's already connected to the system. It's available for iOS and Android, so we're super excited about that. And it would basically send the receipts in, and they'd be already in your incomplete receipt list, and you would just code them and move them on from there. So from end to end, on the AP side, we have invoices that come into AP, get routed for editing and approval, end up as payable transaction inside of GP. On the expense side, we have receipts that get captured by the individual users, sent into Quick Expense, and the expense reports get either automatically created for corporate, you click a button with a date range for reimbursable, submit them. Once those get approved, they come into GP as well, into the same work queue. And here's the part I wanted to show you. Look at this. Here's the one we just did. Those are converted to GL codes now. So again, I don't need to think about whatever coding needs to be done, because as an end user, you don't want me to have to worry about that. You just want me to be able to get my expenses into the system so that we can pay the bills on time. So now I can view this document again right from here before it goes into GP if I want to, because I've got my accounting hat on again, right? I'm about to create a payables batch. We're going to go ahead and create that one we'll put it in that same batch right there on the top. And now that report is going to disappear out of my work queue here and be ready to have a payable transaction entry created right inside of GP as well. And there it is. We'll click select. And now when I go to my GL distributions, look at that, all automatically already created because we did that mapping from the expense solution into GP. And we'll work with you to figure out what those codes need to be. Of course, that's all part of the implementation and setup process. Now, I promised you that we would take a quick look at NAV as well. So I'm just going to hop over here. And I mentioned that there's 80 different screens inside of NAV that have the core document management functionality. Now, what I mean by that is this tag and view documents right inside of NAV. The rest of the document management functionality in QuickTag works and looks exactly like what it did in GP. But just know that in NAV, on those 80 different screens, you're going to have tag and view documents. So once we click tag here, it's going to say, okay, go find that document. Let's say it's an electronic file. Let's say it's a purchase order. We're going to go find that file. We can upload it, drag and drop. with an email or a regular file, or we can scan in the paper, just like we did in GP. I just want you to see all of those different options as well and where that tag and view comes up right here. QuickTag has its own place on the menu. So when we look at that, then to find those documents, of course, they live in QuickTag just as the others did, and you would have a set of drawers that associates to nav and all of the screens that we attach to there. GP for those that attach to GP, or SL or AX if you use those systems. So we've talked about document management, AP automation end-to-end, and expense management in our time together this morning. I'm just going to hop back over to my slides here to see if there's any questions. I'm going to kind of go through the rest of this information pretty quickly. We've covered it mostly in the demo, but I want you to understand that as you think about going digital in your organization, there's a lot of different factors. There's the document management piece, being able to write inside your ERP system, tag, view, and search documents, and of course adding that element of workflow and an experience that looks and feels just like GP, if GP is the system. But then also saving all of that time at every step of the way, entering, online edit and approval, reviewing via email, all of those sorts of things. And then within NAV, having that intensely deep connection, 80 plus forms that you can tag and view documents to, extends much beyond just the core accounting and finance teams, okay? So all of these different areas that you can add documents inside of NAV. And then also, if you're using the Business Central or NAV on-prem, that is supported today and is ready now. If you're looking at the cloud version for D365, those will be available in August. So we'll have that integration as well. We looked at expense and talked about corporate cards and reimbursable. And then I want you to keep this process thought in mind as well, that if you're looking for solutions for these different areas of your business, right? Maybe some people are thinking, gosh, we've got to get rid of all this paper. Maybe somebody else is thinking, we've got to automate this invoice process. It takes too long, it's too expensive, it's cumbersome, nobody can manage stuff. And maybe somebody else is going, we have all these receipts, we have these expense management issues. Well, you can do all of that with one system. You can do that by getting the documents digitally in the format they need to be, capturing them as early as possible, integrating with your ERP system, and automating those processes all with QuickTag. So you don't have to go out and purchase multiple point solutions. You can do all of that with one system in QuickTag. If you happen to be using GP, we also have these other additional technology integrations. To act for job cost and binary stream for MEM and workplace if you're using PO Recs and Dynamics. We talked about all the flavors, and again SalesPad, and then also RecLogic. So if you're looking at making that move to digital transformation, make sure that the system that you're looking at works with the other ISVs and technology players that are part of your accounting process. Make sure that you can check those boxes, and we're happy to demo those things for you specifically. And if you're not familiar with QuickTag as a company, a little bit about our background. We've been doing this for 22 years. We're a Microsoft Gold development partner, and we go very, very deeply within the Microsoft ERP systems, as I've shown you during the course of our time together. And I like to share what I call a little bit of our family snapshot. Now, I can't possibly fit all 120,000 users around the globe. That represents about 1,000 to 1,200 companies, unique companies. I can't fit them all on one slide, but I like to share this with you to paint the picture of we're dealing with companies of all shapes and sizes, of many different industries, and that all at their core struggle with the same challenges of paper. Things take too much time. There's bottlenecks in the process. It's too much space to store all that paper. Nobody can find it when they need it. And compliance and audit processes are a nightmare. These companies all struggled with those challenges as well and chose QuickTag as the solution. I'll call your attention to the upper left-hand corner there. The NHL Stanley Cup winners also use QuickTag as their document management solution as well. So if you can relate to that and are interested in learning more about how some of those companies use QuickTag, we're happy to have that conversation with you as well. And I mentioned those promos, as Vishal did earlier as well. The bundle solution to get started with document management, that promo is good through the end of June. So certainly reach out to Vishal or reach out to us to find out more about that and how you can get started. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Vishal in case there's any questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Vishal, I think you might be on mute.
Michelle had to leave, but
Okay.
well, if anybody has a question or needs to reach out to Mary or to Optimus, you're welcome to write us to operations@optimus.group. Please feel free to reach out to us with any
With any
questions you
questions.
have. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you can visit this site here too, quicktag.com/Optimus Business Transformation. We have a special site for just the Optimus team and clients so that you can view videos and brochures and get some additional information there as well. But definitely reach out to the Optimus team or to us directly at QuickTag, and we're happy to address questions or do any specific demos that you might have for products that you need, solutions that you need in your organization. So thanks everybody for attending today, and till next time, take care.
Okay.